Hey there folks, and welcome to this video. This one's a general notice. I know I usually kick off the week with these, they're usually on Mondays. This one's on Tuesday, the next one is going to be on Wednesday. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what's coming up in the next week or so on the channel, as well as giving you a channel update, and talk about a couple of the articles, the ones of which you will see in the title for this video. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Let's talk about the upcoming videos. And to start off with, short form content seems to be really in right now for this channel in terms of performances. So you'll see, well, I've been doing one every day for the last month or so. They're mostly just clips from the long form videos that I do on this channel. So if you're somebody who watches the long form stuff, you don't need to watch the short form stuff necessarily. But there are a couple of bits and pieces like former live stream clips, or a couple of them that are one-offs. So for example, one of them is led to one of the articles that we're going to be discussing today. But in terms of this channel itself, you can expect a preview for the 6 hours of Imola tomorrow, then a video in Le Mans Ultimate on Thursday, a review for the Paul Ricard 6 hours on Friday, sorry, I meant to say Thursday for Le Mans Ultimate, then on Saturday, Supercars at Taupo, or Torpo, sorry, I've forgotten how to pronounce it already. I pronounced it correctly in the video, I can tell you that much. And then hopefully on Sunday, a review for the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. On Monday, a preview for Rally La Canaria. And then on Tuesday, a review for the 6 hours of Imola. I'm going to be very busy over the course of the next week or so. So if I don't end up doing that, I've got a couple of fallback videos. One of them's a review for Super GT at Okayama, for example. But yeah, ideally, we don't have to worry about that. Those videos should all be coming out at 5 PM local time. So yeah, quite nicely lined up. No live streams planned as of right now. The next general notice should be on Wednesday the 23rd. So if you're looking for these kinds of updates, come back next Wednesday 5 PM. Next update should be out. And on that note, we'll go across to the content and a channel update. Because, like I said, short-form content appears to be the thing right now. If I look at the last calendar week, I can see an increase in content. A weird drop-off on Tuesday. I don't know exactly what happened on Tuesday, but for some reason, Monday 806 views, Tuesday 61. Then over 1K on Wednesday, back below 1K on Thursday and Friday, back up to 1K on Saturday, and then down to 800 on Sunday. Yesterday's one, I'm probably going to talk about it next week as well, though I probably might forget that I said I was going to do that. Yesterday got 2,004 views, which is the most views this channel has gotten in nearly 2 years. It's strange. And I'm looking at today, and the short that I published earlier today has ended up with 2 hours where I nearly got 400 views for it in each of them. So today's another over 1,000 view day, and I'm struggling to understand it. There is no method to the madness, really, when it comes to the shorts algorithm. I think what's happened is now it's pushing it to more and more people for motorsporty stuff. And as a result, it's helping out because the things that are going well in terms of content performances, it's a really big variety. There's some ERC stuff, there's some WRC stuff, and some Formula E, IMSA, FIA stuff, or F1 stuff. It's just so varied. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing at the moment. I'm really enjoying finding ways to make these shorts of the long form content, and there is actually a conversion rate where some people are coming from the short form stuff over to long form content. We'll keep going with that one. I like to do this little peek behind the curtain section because it allows me to geek out and nerd out a little bit over stats and data. So we'll keep doing that. See where it goes. But for now, we'll draw a line under that. We'll go on to the articles, starting off with something that came up last week and I already talked about in a short. And that is that Robert Reid, who was the Deputy President for Sport of the FIA, resigned last week. Reid was appointed Deputy President for Sport when Mohammed bin Sulayem came in as the President of the FIA in 2021. Reid was the co-driver for the late Richard Burns, so is a World Rally Champion in his own right. Now, this was a breakdown that happened not necessarily overnight, but it wasn't over a prolonged period. It happened relatively quickly. They escalated like this. Back in February, you might remember me talking about an FIA meeting in which Reid didn't take part, nor did David Richards, who's chairman of Motorsport UK. And the reason why they didn't was because of a new NDA that they would have had to sign. Now, NDAs in motorsport do exist. I've signed an NDA for working in motorsport before. But the ways in which it was going to cover the FIA was too much for Reid, and he decided to resign. The statement, which I will put a link to in the description section, I'll also put a link to the BBC article which covers this, says, "Over time, I've witnessed a steady erosion of the principles we promised to uphold, decisions being made behind closed doors, bypassing the very structures and people the FIA exists to present." And there's lots behind this. For example, so I've heard, allegedly, the purchase of World Rallycross, or the taking over of World Rallycross by the FIA, could end up in European court under the tender, due process, and non-compete circumstances of it, because it looked like the FIA just went, yep, we're going to do that. And whether it was the FIA or whether it was just the president of the FIA is yet to be seen. But it doesn't look great. I didn't know that the FIA, I can't remember if it was the race or Evan Moore was talking about this, that the FIA has a rule for presidents when they're coming in cannot be over 70. That bars Richards from running, and it bars Ross Brawn from running. He's just turned 70. I don't know if Robert Reid would go for the top job, especially since he's just resigned from the second rung on that ladder. But the person who's being touted for it right now, at least in the circles that I've been seeing, is Susie Wolff. I think she'd do a good job. But if Susie Wolff was, for whatever reason, disqualified, maybe people decide to go, oh, the surname and the husband being Toto Wolff means that you can't do that. I want to float another name who has similar credentials to Susie Wolff, but instead of being in the world of single-seaters and circuit racing, is more point-to-point, and when it is circuits, it's rallycross. Pernilla Solberg. She's done similar things to what Susie Wolff has done in open wheelers for rallying. She was part of the Beyond Rally initiative. She is a successful team boss. She was a successful and competitive driver. He'd be great to have on there. Plus, would that not be awesome for the Wolfredson family and the Solberg family, right? You know, you've got rally drivers, world champions in rallying, in rallycross, got young drivers coming up the ladder, and you've got the FIA presidency. I think that sounds pretty cool. Anyways, on to the next article about F1 and Saudi Arabia. Because the race is reporting that the Qiddiya circuit for the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix could be pushed back to 2029. Now, they think it'll be built in 2027. Bear in mind, we're already meant to be racing in Qiddiya. We are still at Jeddah, you know, the street circuit that's not actually a street circuit, it's all purpose-built stuff like that. I've got a short coming out on that tomorrow. It's in my Saudi Arabian Grand Prix preview if you want to check that one out for more about me having a bit of a rant about how much I have questions about the Jeddah Corniche circuit. But yeah, the Qiddiya track supposedly will be done in 2027. But depending on how construction is going for the rest of the Qiddiya city, that was first presented as earliest, I think was it 2020? I have a feeling it was 2020. I'm actually going to double check this live on camera. I'm pretty sure it's 2020 because, yes, it was the first edition of the Dakar in Saudi Arabia. They said, oh, by the way, this desert you're in this place called Qiddiya, this is where F1 is going to be. And they built it as if they were going to build this place overnight, and F1 was just going to suddenly rock up there. Then it went, oh no, we're going to temporarily be on the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It is a street circuit. Definitely a street circuit. It was streets at some point, so that means, I guess, you could claim it's a street circuit. In which case, we could claim that Silverstone, they are racing on active runways. But, yeah. It just feels a bit odd. It feels slightly dodgy, right? Like, the tender went to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix on the premise that we were temporarily going to have the Jeddah Corniche circuit. So it was like, okay, maybe we're fine with you putting this tarmac down. But now it's actually a permanent facility. It masquerades as a street circuit because it doesn't conform to Grade 1 guidelines otherwise. And actually, its Grade 1 license has lapsed. I think it will probably be renewed on Thursday, just before the Grand Prix. But it's just... It's like looking at Qatar. I'm pretty sure when Lusail first hosted the race in, 21? We were told, oh yeah, when they come back in 23, after the 2022 World Cup, it won't be at Lusail. It will be on a racetrack that's a street circuit in Doha, or something to that effect. No. We're still at Lusail. I don't know. It just... There are other countries that I feel if they tried to pull a similar kind of stunt to the FIA, they'd have gone, nah, and backed out. I mean, heck, I'm just thinking 2016 Rally China. They claimed the roads were damaged. We didn't get a Rally China in 2017. Anyways, Saudi Arabia Grand Prix coming up. We're going to stick with Saudi Arabia and this article from Autosport. Because, apparently, PIF, the Public Investment Fund, might look at buying a Formula 1 team. I believe this comes from the same kind of rounds of questioning because Khalid bin Sultan Al Abdullah Al Faisal was also interviewed as part of it. And one of the things he said was, there is space available. There are only 11 out of 12 and potentially 1 or 2 teams that may be for sale in the future. I mean, it could happen. And here's another quote. All directions say that maybe soon Saudi can, if they see it's feasible, if it makes sense, then why not? Nobody just likes making money. So if you can make money out of Formula 1, I think it's very tricky. You need to know exactly which team to buy and who to partner with and who will manage this. The decision is very difficult. It's not easy to say which team to buy and how you're going to manage it. We have a lot of interest. We're hosting Formula 1 sponsoring teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see an announcement for a Saudi team, and personally, I would like to see a Saudi team. Now, Qatar... has invested in the Audi project, the current Sauber project. Bahrain has strong investments in McLaren. McLaren, who in Formula E are sponsored by Neom, the city mega project that is Qiddiya-esque in terms of it sounds extravagant, but is it actually feasible? But a PIF-owned F1 team. Now, if you're a football fan, you might be celebrating the fact that Newcastle won the Carabao Cup, but at the same time, PIF money, it's a bit like with Manchester City and the UAE. But... I don't know. I mean, the easiest way to become a millionaire in motorsport is to start off a billionaire. And these countries aren't the first countries to engage in sports washing. I mean, you can go back through my record on this channel and you'll see the amount of times I've been critical of Saudi Arabia. At the same time, I will point out other countries. Like, you could potentially, depending on where you sit politically, criticize at least 2, if not 3, of the American Grand Prix we have this year. Got Miami, Florida, Austin, Texas, and then Las Vegas, Nevada. We're not talking about some kind of California that's some people in the American political landscape want to paint as this liberal paradise. I mean, at the same time, we're not talking about places that some people in America may want to put die the Red Republican. It's really difficult to have this conversation. But at the same time, state-owned, state-run sports teams outside of, national clubs, it is a bit odd for me. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your feelings in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching and joining as always, folks, and until next time, bye for now.